All right, welcome to the Eric J. the Great podcast show. Got two special guests on the show today, Helen and director Phil. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
Doing okay. Just taking it day by day.
Amen to that. Well, it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity to direct this show for Helen and for the university. And I don't know how much you know about the show, but it is an original piece, and Helen has done all the research and finding these characters and fleshing them out and devising an amazing script and these are characters that everyone are going to be endeared to. They're going to really want to know more about them. And there's a lot going on in this play about in terms of things that was happening in America during the 1800s, middle of the 1800s, 1865. So it's just an amazing piece of work for two people, and it's basically about their life struggle during and after the post-Civil War era. And I'm going to ask Helen to tell you more about she has written this piece, and it is absolutely an amazing piece of work.
Thank you, Philip.
And I can talk more about myself. I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm a professional actor, director, writer, and producer from Louisville, Kentucky. And I graduated from WKU in Bowling Green, and my degree is in theater and speech. And then I moved to New York for a while, attended American Academy of Dramatic Arts in 1979, and returned back to Louisville to start performing in 1980 in the Humana Festival here at Actors Theater with John Joy directing. And I was in the second Humana Festival in a play called They're Coming to Make It Brighter, which was an amazing piece of work. And it sort of launched my career here locally because I went on to perform at Actors Theater for many decades, as well as Stage One, the Louisville Children's Theater, and the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival. I started over there in 1980 and performed all the way up until 2008. And I performed Othello, the title lead in Othello there, as well as Macbeth in 04 and 05. And I performed in 23 of Shakespeare's 37 professionally. Also taught with Whitney M. Young Scholars Program for about 25 years. The classes were Bellum, and I had exceptional students there. I taught with Kentucky Governor School for the Arts. I was a faculty member from 1990 through 2001, and I still currently have a great relationship with GSA, helping them with recruitment. I was taught at the Youth Performing Arts School, the Young Actors Institute, for 29 years, a teacher and former director of that program. Walden Theater, 8 years as education director and teacher of acting. And I taught the New Performing Arts program that went around the state teaching arts and humanities. So I got a wonderful opportunity to go into schools all around the state, elementary, middle, and high, and teach the arts and humanities, elements of performance, elements of drama and production, and that kind of thing. It was really a wonderful opportunity to connect with kids all over the state. And that's why I was so good with recruitment for Governor School for the Arts also, because I had those opportunities. In addition to I've mainly talked about a lot of my education work, but I've worked quite a bit as an actor and film, television, and stage. I've worked with notable actors such as Brian Dennehy and Raquel Welch, John Voight, Nona Griffith, Ashley Judd, Al Pacino, Morgan Freeman, Nicolas Cage. And most of those are in Hallmark and Lifetime movies, except for the one with Al Pacino was filmed here in Louisville. It's about Jeffrey Wigand, and I was a script reader and FBI agent. And the one I worked on with Morgan Freeman was filmed in Portland, Oregon. A film called The Feast of Love. I was a stand-in for Morgan, so I was on the set with Morgan daily. It's a great opportunity. And the one with Nicolas Cage, I played a law enforcement officer. Mom and Dad was filmed here in Louisville in 2017. And I'm casting 2 films in LA that I'm going to go out after the first of the year and start working on. And these are movies written, directed, and produced by Shane Woodson, who is also a Louisville product, came up through the Brown School and the Youth Performing Arts School. And so it's a real pleasure and honor to get a chance to work with him in LA. And that kind of, just a brief description of who I am, what I've been doing over the last 45 years or so. And so, yeah. Any questions for me? You want to, Helen?
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, I perform fences down in Florida. I perform all over the country, so I'm just kind of giving you a local viewpoint of what I've been doing.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into Helen's back story, and then we'll transition into the documentary that you guys are working on, and how that came about, and when they're supposed to drop, and more details and things like that. So, Helen, just tell the people where you're from, and just give a backstory. How you grew up. Some struggles you might have to go through growing up as a kid, from your hometown, things like that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Phil. Something that Phil told me about going back to his experiences outside of theater was that his father was the first African-American photographer for the Courier, correct, Phil?
That's right. And the book just came out this week from the Louisville Defender. I have a copy for you, Helen. It's an amazing book that features a lot of my dad's photography. He photographed Muhammad Ali and Dr. Martin Luther King and the race riots of the 60s. And he really photojournalized a lot of important and historic things that happened in our community. So thank you for mentioning that. Yes,
Yeah.
The book is out. It's on the shelves. It's on the bookstores. It's in the bookstores.
Yeah, so I was really honored to meet Phil. Going back to kind of my background and the roots that I come from, I got into theater at a really young age. I was only like 7 years old, and my mom, I'm biracial, so on my father's side, his family, and that's another reason this work is so important to me, was enslaved. And this is like my great grandfather. So my father's grandfather, and then his father was a sharecropper. And then my father was born in 47. So he also sharecropped as a young boy. So coming from those roots, and then growing up in California, my father served as well. And he was stationed out at Castle Air Force Base. This is in Atwater, California, which is the neighboring city to my hometown where I was born, called Merced, California. And it's like an agricultural community, but my dad kind of transplanted there with the military. And I was raised in a household where the story and the narrative of not just slavery, but of servitude, of indentured servitude, of sharecropping was kind of something that like I learned about as a child. In a lot of ways, I think a lot of my generation, those stories, because my father had me when he was older. So it's like I learned things that not the average, kid growing up would really like know that much about. And so I kind of, I've always had a passion for it. I'm biracial. And so on my mom's side, she grew up in Ohio, and her father worked for NASA. So getting back to the theater story, when I was a little girl, I applied for this scholarship. It was a writing contest when I was 7, and it was to go to space camp for NASA. And I said I wanted to go, and that I thought it would be so cool to follow in my grandfather's footsteps and work for NASA. And I was awarded the scholarship. It was like a summer camp, but then they found out that I was only 7, and I guess the cutoff was like 8. So they're like, no, we're so sorry. You can't have this scholarship, but you can have the scholarship to College for Kids, which is a program where for children where I'm from. And one of the things was a summer theater camp. And so it was kind of by fate that I ended up even in the theater. And so I took that and I played an elf in The Hobbit. That was my first performance. And and then, fast forward to like college. The first like major role I did was the play Antigone. I played Antigone, and I ended up getting my bachelor's in theater out in California at Stanislaus. I played quite a few roles, not as many as Philip in Shakespeare. I was Lady Macbeth in Macbeth. And I've really had such a passion for theater and doing plays that have already been done. But coming to U of L, and I'm getting my MFA at U of L right now, and there's an African American theater program there. And so learning more about like the works of Lorraine Hansberry, which I don't know if you've ever read like A Raisin in the Sun as a kid or heard the play before. Is that familiar to you?
No.
Oh, okay. So she is, a famous playwright, and she was the first African American female to be produced on Broadway. And so learning about her and about August Wilson and about African Americans who kind of reclaimed our narrative, because we were coming out of like minstrelsy and Gone with the Wind and stories of the Black narrative told through a white lens and without like the input of like our own voices. And so it just became really important to me. And then being here, where not only are there plantations and historical places where slavery existed, but these stories that have kind of been like left out and not remembered, like Lucy and Thornton. And so it kind of came full circle. And I was like, well, I want to tell the story. It resonates with my family history. And Philip was just so wonderful and like agreeing to direct the show and has really helped with production as well. So that's how it was born. And then yeah, we're here with you today.
So as far as so you said, so is it a show like as far as having more
Yeah, it's a show,
episodes?
it's a play at Locust Grove. Yeah. And so
It's a play, yeah.
and so we're going to do a live performance, but we are in talking and in the works of doing so right now there's a play script, but a screenplay is also being worked on. So that's when it would become, and I like that you said documentary. I don't know that it would be per se a documentary, but like a docudrama, like something that is talking about historical fact, and kind of paying homage to the different people along the way. And so I could maybe give you like a brief rundown of the story of Lucy and Thornton. We kind of talked before the interview about them, but basically, Lucy and Thornton were enslaved in Louisville. They met while they were enslaved, and then they fell in love. There's kind of conflicting research on whether they were actually married when they were enslaved, but essentially they had a union and they decided to run away together. Lucy's owner passed away, and when he passed away, Lucy was going to be sold away to the South, and so to basically save her from that fate, Thornton and her escaped. And when they ended up in Detroit, what was fascinating to me about their story, and that more people don't know about them, the first race riots occurred because slave catchers came up from Kentucky to capture them and bring them back. And the people were against it. They had a trial. And when they gave a guilty verdict and sentencing Thornton to servitude back in the South, they essentially rioted and helped them to escape. So they ended up in Canada, and then in Canada, they lobbied the Canadian government to assist runaway slaves to get up north and then into Canada. And they offered them, like the laws were changed so that these escaped runaways could have protections under the Canadian law, because up until that point, the US could extradite those escaped enslaved back to the US. And so they were really like instrumental in so many ways in changing like the landscape of slavery and also like of the US, our Constitution. So I think it's just like one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. So I was like, I want to tell this story. Yeah.
Yes.
So do y'all have a name for it already?
Yes. Yeah. It's Lucy and Thornton.
Okay. I didn't know if that was the name or not.
Yeah, that's the name.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The name
And
of the two main characters.
right, it's unoriginal, but yeah.
And how many do y'all have a lot of moving pieces in this play, and also kind of give like a do y'all have like a timeline on when you expect to present this publicly, or
Yeah. So there are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving characters. I'll let Philip speak to like his direction and his stylizing of the play. Because I did write the play, but I'm not the Philip's the director. But as far as the timelines, I can speak to that and then give it over to Philip. The timelines that we're looking at are the end of February and the beginning of March. To have this show up, and then we'll definitely send those dates over to you. And I honestly, Locust Grove has been so wonderful and integral in this part. So the performances will be held there. There's also a local caterer by the name of Garden Girl. I don't, are you familiar with her?
no?
So she is a wonderful, Whitney is amazing. She essentially grows in her garden seasonal crops, and then she teaches anyone that really wants to come and learn. She teaches them how to harvest the crops, how to care for the crops, and then she also teaches them how to prepare them in the kitchen, how to can them. And so she also does catering events, and her food is all fresh. And it's just an amazing opportunity to, kind of collaborate with a local African American business owner. So she's offered to cater for the show. So it's going to be kind of like a dinner theater experience. And also just supporting Black business. This is just really important to me. Like Phil being a part of this project and him having such a influential background, and like he's such a major part of the community and the theatrical community. So just finding different people to bring in and like celebrate together this project has like been really important. But again, it'll be like the end of February and the beginning of March that we'll be running shows. And then I'll turn it over to Philip about his directing process.
Sure. Thank you, Helen. This is I've been doing this type of work for a long time, developing historic characters. I have a one-man show on African American poet Paul Laurence Dunbar, and I've been touring that for about 40 years. I'm also putting together some information for a documentary on my great aunt, Henrietta Helm, whose image was recently put on the Republic Building downtown in the form of a mural to highlight some of her artistic and educational achievements. She taught at a place called the Portland Colored Night School. It was for for enslaved people who needed to get an education after the Civil War, and it was in the Portland area of Louisville, Kentucky. Most people don't know about this, but I also own all the artifacts, and we're looking to put together an amazing piece on that. Now, my process for directing this play, and I was thankful. I met Helen, and she encouraged me to consider directing this play. I have directed plays at U of L before, but it's been quite a while, so I was honored that she asked me to do it, especially because this play is about two real people and their lives, and what was going on in this country when this play was set in 1831 was pretty amazing too. So we're able to incorporate a lot of that into this play in terms of it was tough. It was very tough. So I don't mind if the audience squirms a little bit in their seat. Where we are in the process right now is a blocking process for the play, and this is where the actors basically come into the set and learn where they enter, where they play their scene, and where they exit, and then I give them a second time to go through the scene and give them some direction on it. It's an amazing process, and I'm gonna go through the entire play the same way, because what I want to do is find all of the. There's a lot of jewels in the dialogue and in the monologues in this play, and not all of it's written. Some of it's nonverbal, And we're going to go in there and find all the wonderful pieces to make everybody in the audience feel this play. So my process is working with the actors and making sure that they understand exactly what is the intentions of the orchestra. And the great thing is Helen's there in every rehearsal, and she's the person who wrote the play. So we're going to honor what she has written to the best of our abilities, and make sure the actors are understand and are speaking in a manner that the audiences will enjoy and appreciate. We've also have opportunity here, I think, with this play to reach outside of the walls at the University of Louisville and connect with people in the community, which is, I think, something that's very important. And I'm glad that Helen has already done that by reaching out to the folks on the Belle of Louisville, for instance, is a wonderful place to perform, because the Belle of Louisville is actually around during some of that. Same way with Locust Grove. So we're connecting bits and pieces of the community with theater, and I find that to be amazing, and I think that's what should be happening. So I'm very, very obviously pleased to be a part of that process. And so we're going to block the play, we're going to stage it, and then start run-throughs. I'm going to be out of town for a few weeks, as well as Helen. We're going to get back after the first of the year and put it all together and plan on performing it in February and perhaps March. And so we have a very brilliant cast of folks, and everybody's understands what this journey is going to be, because it's more than just about being in a theater production. It's about connecting a community as well. So I'm honored to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's dope. So let me ask this. So, what was the whole because I know well, I had to start with Helen because I think this would probably be more for you, but where did the whole motivation come to tell this story in like a play? Like did you wake up randomly one day and was like, oh, or is it something that been on your mind for a while and you just now putting it into action?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a bit of both. I've written a couple other works. So playwriting's always been a passion of mine. However, this particular story, I was introduced through, again, kind of like happenstance. One of my professors at U of L had a movement course where we talked about historical period movement. And so we were tasked with finding historical figures in and around the late 1800s. And so we went down to the archives at the university library, they're in the basement, and the archivists there were wonderful and really supportive of the projects that we were working on. And so they all kind of threw out different names. There's some oral history, African-American oral history archives down there as well, which I know Philip has also used when researching his great aunt, Henrietta Helm. And so there's been a real connection to the actual history of the time. And then I was recommended by one of the archivists to look into the Blackburns. There was a few other figures, Cassius Marcellus Clay, the first, not Muhammad Ali or his father, but the abolitionist they were named after is also from here. So I told the archivist, hey, I'm thinking about researching Cassius a little further. And his name is Tom. And Tom was like, I really think you should look into the Blackburns. And not a lot of people know about them. And he kind of gave me just a brief little rundown of their love story and their escape to freedom. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, So it started like that. And then there's also another U of L alum, Brandy Lachey, who's a director over at Locust Grove. And she and I had connected about new works. We had a few meetings discussing what types of stories should be told and how they should be told. And so it kind of evolved. And so we're here now, which is really exciting point. It is the world premiere. It is very it's a big challenge to honestly portray historical figures and do them justice, but it's really exciting. So this is actually inspired, researching other characters and people that existed here that lived in this area, because California is rich with history, but there's something about this place. It just, like American history started here a lot sooner. There's obviously the indigenous history that occurred in California. But as far as having like enslaved African Americans in the 1800s, there's really not a lot of information on that, like in my schools and back home in California. So to find, these archives and this, like, it's just so rich with like information. And so that to me was the inspiration. It's just these are stories that not a lot of people know about. So how can we make these, palatable to a wider audience?
Yeah, and I'm glad, as I was listening to y'all talk, one thing that came across my mind was, it's very important to have people like yourself and Phil, that's constantly thinking about these historical figures that not that's that might not be at the forefront of the ones that first come to mind, like the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings and things like that, because everybody deserves to get their story told. So, and everybody has their own place in history. So to know that there's people out there that's still 10 toes down, researching history of historical figures that, that people might have heard about once or twice, but never really took the time to really do real deep research or see who these people were. That's pretty dope that you guys are doing that and putting that out to the public so people can know that the history of everybody that had a place in history, not just the main people that we hear about every year or people that have federal holidays and stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, Eric. Because a lot of our history was left out of the history books, as you well know. And it's his story. It's not our story. So stories like the one that Helen has written is our story, and this is why we need to write these. We need to produce these type of stories because it hasn't been done to this point to the degree where it needs to be. Nowhere near it. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and also that gives y'all y'all own lane, as far as for future works, as far as because I'm pretty sure it's other people that y'all got on the back burner for the future that people haven't told stories about historical figures that y'all can do plays about in the future.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many stories.
Yeah, I think it's just an excellent like observation that it's as important as the Malcolm X's, of course, and the Hueys and the Dr. Kings. Like we have to honor and celebrate the legends that got us where we are today. But I also feel like there's definitely not just like people that were ignored, but like almost like erased or buried. So there, Dr. Frost, Smarts Frost up in Canada, actually, speaking of buried, their historical home, Lucy and Thornton's, they were excavating in Canada and someone came across like what looked like a really old structure. And so the historical society, everyone came in, investigated, archaeologists came, they unearthed it, and then they discovered Dr. Smarts Frost actually headlined it that she came to Louisville, did intensive research here, Detroit, and up in Canada about what their story was because it had been kind of lost to history. And so, it's really important the work of unearthing the past and giving recognition to people that made a difference in what we, the freedoms that we enjoy today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a lot of people when I have conversations with like a lot of older people and stuff, because I kind of look at like a lot of documentaries and stuff, and when I hear like a lot of stuff. I can't think of the names right now, but a lot of people tell me like, the people that got names as far as like the Rosa Parks and things like that, people be telling me about people that did stuff that the same thing that the people that we know did, but they just didn't get the recognition, because they saying that the people was sitting down and refusing bus seats way before Rosa Parks, but they never got the recognition. Because I know a couple of people when I went into the Rosa Parks thing in Montgomery, people was telling me like dropping names on me of people that they don't get the recognition, but they knew Rosa Parks and they was doing it like way before you know that she was, but she was just the one that got the recognition. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that, but it just goes to show you how stuff falls through the cracks sometimes.
Yeah, I've heard that
Yes.
story, and I can't remember the name of the original woman, but the leaders of the movement at the time thought that Rosa Parks made like a more, I guess, attractive person to put, in the front of the movement. Like they used her face and her name and her story. I think the other woman, I want to say she was like a single mother, and they were like, "Oh, we don't want to use her as our champion for this cause." So I think that's really interesting that you say that. It is what
I
is the
didn't
saying?
remember.
History is written in the eyes of the victor. And yeah, and I don't remember her name. Do you remember the name of the original woman?
Nah, I don't remember. It was a conversation I had like a couple years ago. It just came across my mind that you know,
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. That makes me want to look it up.
Wow.
but so as far as I know, as far as this whole play, like did you talk to did y'all have connection with any of their family today, or did y'all just strictly do research, or how did that go about?
Yeah, so what's interesting, they didn't have children, Lucy and Thornton. So I think that maybe it has to do with like they did have a very close family friend that they left. Like so Thornton passed before Lucy, and then they willed the remaining to their family friend, but they did not, at least according to historical records, they did not have children. So that has been kind of, I guess, it would be nice, yeah, to reach out to one of their descendants. Thornton actually did the Underground Railroad. He did the path in reverse after he got up to Canada to get his mother. He came back down and got his mother out. So I know that they had family, but that's a really good question. Like, are there any living relatives? I don't know that. And that, again, with the research, that might be something that we uncover later. But yeah, that would be really nice to connect with.
That would be. That would be.
Yeah, because it's it's their legacy, it's their family history.
Yeah, because I think of a lot of stories, and it's a lot of successful films out there, and y'all could probably tell me explain it better than
Mm.
I can just be from the outside looking in. But I see a lot of stories that get put on big movie budgets and things like that, and then after the movie come out, and then you hear people family be like, "Oh, they didn't reach out," or then like that. So I always feel like I mean, I know something in some situations is not possible, but I just like feel like if it is possible, like you can't go wrong with the authentic feel, because the family gonna tell it to you how it is.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so true. I know that there are living abolitionists, like descendants from abolitionists that helped Lucy and Thornton here in Louisville and in the community. So one of the goals is to reach out to that family and kind of offer in the program, maybe like if they're comfortable with it, kind of just some homage and giving name and recognition to what their family has done. Because
That would be good.
yeah, it was a network of people, and And I think what's interesting about the abolitionists, whether they were freed African Americans that were enslaved and then freed, or if they were Caucasian abolitionists, either way, it was illegal to help. And so a lot of these names are unknown. A lot of their identities are hidden, but we do know the names of some of the people that helped. So that, and that's something Philip and I discussed is like, can you imagine like being helped smuggled to freedom and then you can't even, tell people like this family saved my life. Yeah, there's a lot of things about slavery I didn't think about until doing this project. Yeah, it's heavy to say the
It
least.
is. It's very
Yeah.
heavy, yes.
Mhm.
Very emotional, very emotional.
Yeah, it is.
Just
So, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to tell the people about the play, and also just list some things that you wanted to accomplish with putting this out to the people, and also if you got any future things going on, things like that, just dive into that and let people know how to find you on social media and things like that.
Thank you. Do you want to go ahead, Philip, or do you like me to go first?
you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
You go first, please.
Yeah, so as far as like the last minute things about the play, we will be advertising both on the radio and in print. So there will be more information. I'll definitely share some with you to share with your viewers. I honestly, as far as like future projects are concerned, Philip has the opportunities out in LA. I am still working on my MFA, and so one of the my thesis is coming up next year, and so one of the interests that I'm really focusing on right now is like these autoethnographic biographies talking about not only like I want to research other enslaved narratives as well and tell those stories, but also my own and my family history. I know a lot about my family history, but I don't know, unfortunately, a lot of enslaved didn't have records. So, we've done some like ancestry research, but I really want to dig into that. And that's also kind of parallels the work that Philip is doing with Henrietta Helm, his great aunt. And I think that is really like the crux of all the things I want to do moving forward. I do still want to pursue a professional career in acting, and that is a passion of mine. And I still consider myself an actress first and foremost. But as a playwright, I feel like the focus of my work is going to be around these types of narratives and exploring, if not just, not just the enslaved populations, but any oppressed population, because there's stuff like this happening today. It might not be the same exact narrative, but there are similarities and oppressions and injustices, as that occur all the time. So I think that that's my goal is like creating political theater, creating, activated theater that's trying to kind of call the audience to action and say, let's look at this, let's kind of digest and interpret like how we can in a mirror to like how we can be better, how can we do better, because there's some horrors of slavery that we talk about in the play that, and like Philip said, I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but I also feel like being honest about our history instead of kind of, making it look nice, is important. I think if we cover up how atrocious it was, how hard, how difficult it was for the enslaved, we're doing a disservice to those that came before us. So yeah, and I'll let Philip kind of take his part too.
Wow, that was nice. I feel very very much the same as you, Helen. And I tell you, I hope that this play will encourage other people also to look in their family histories and find these wonderful stories because they're there. They're there somewhere, and they're the ones that we don't see in our current history books. They're the ones that we don't read in our humanities books, but they're there and they're important. And they're important to us. And not just when I say us, I'm not just talking about our race. I'm talking about us as a nation, because these are real people. These are real people's lives. And I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to bring Lucy and Thornton's life, make it real to people, and the people who are in the audience, they're going to know who these people were, and they're going to know some other additional information about what was going on during this time period in America, because there was a lot of really kind of just really difficult time for the slaves, especially. So we're gonna bring all that out, and I want everybody to come out and see it when they have an opportunity. I would like to encourage people to come see it and to realize that they have stories in their own lives similar to this, or different but similar, because we were all of our ancestors were enslaved people. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When y'all anticipate to drop this, are y'all just doing an in-person thing for people to come see it, or is it gonna be on streaming services, or how's that going?
So initially it will be a live performance. However, as far as like recording the actual play of the stage version, I don't think that that is something that we would be like putting out into the public. However, there is the screenplay and the film project that essentially, like, when we wrap with this, we can begin and maybe do another interview with you and talk about that. But yeah,
Yes,
that,
but yeah.
go ahead, Philip.
No, I was just gonna say that would be great, because after we get this one together, then we could, because the similar kind of research and work to put together this play, it would be similar to put together the film script, or something that we then can film and bring in more components of the story as well.
Yeah, so just like a little rundown of like, and this, to shout out our production team as well. There are a number of elements in theater that are not technically in film, and you can kind of blend and merge those elements. However, a lot of liberties that you can take in film are kind of difficult in theater. For example, the riot in Detroit, to accomplish, having a courtroom with a bunch of like, additional actors that are rioting, and the chaos to like really facilitate that on stage. And this is where like the script would vary. A theatrical interpretation of one event might vary on camera. With the camera, you can do a lot with setting that you can't really do on stage. And so it'll be the same story, but it'll just be kind of a different medium. And so that's a little bit of an adjustment and a process. But we do feel like, yeah, I would say like mid-spring, we'll start working on the film version. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is pretty dope, interesting story. I like looking at historical things, as far as like what's that movie called? Like similar, like Mississippi Burning with Edgar, what's that about Eggers?
Mirror, Edgar.
Yeah, I forgot that dude's name. But yeah, I like looking at stuff like that with uh historical Black people that doesn't have the biggest names, as far as like the people that we talked about before. So um I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a dope play, and everybody's gonna enjoy it. And when y'all wrap it up and put it out to the public, and also anytime you guys want to come on a podcast, I record all the time, so y'all all you have to do is hit me up. I record almost every week, so just let me know when y'all want to do it. And also let any last words you guys want to tell the people, and also let people know how to keep up with you guys as far as social media and things like that.
Yeah, so I am at the Shining Light of God. It's all the normal spelling, the Shining Light of God on Instagram. and you'll find my email and contact information there. And you're welcome to message me with any questions if you want to be involved in the process or the project. We are open to local businesses, Black-owned businesses, really anyone that has a desire to participate in the project. And I'll throw it over to you, Philip.
Yeah, and people can just go to Google and put in my name, Philip, 2 L's, Cherry, 2 R's, Cherry, and then I have IMDb and all the information that I just explained regarding my education work. A lot of that's there. Some examples of my acting work is there, and so it's quite a bit of information there on my work over this period of time. I would encourage people to do that, and I also like to say to everybody, have a safe holiday season, and just remember to love each other. Keep the love.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I appreciate both of y'all coming on the podcast. This is kind of a little different because I really don't come across a lot of actors or movie directors that often. Usually, everybody I interviewed in the past is either a platinum selling artist or an up and coming music artist, business owner, or author.
Oh, nice.
So I think I always said that like authors, actors, and movie directors is kind of like one of those fields that you don't hear like a lot of people talk about because you don't run across those people as often as like athletes and things like that. So I feel like those are like the most challenging fields, the ones you don't hear about or come across that much.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
thank you. And honestly, yeah, like just watching
Appreciate
some
you.
of your past work and your other podcasts, yeah, it's really cool. And I love that you're kind of crossing over and working in different, sectors and interviewing different types of people. I think that's really awesome. But thank you,
Same
Eric.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes.
And just um well, are y'all cool with dropping this in February or how y'all want to go about it?
Yeah, we can drop it in February, and then what I'll do is I can even send you like the show dates and info and everything done. That way you can, add it to the podcast itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you so
you.
much. Yes. Appreciate you, Eric.
Yep.
And your work. Very important.
Yep. And yeah, this concludes another episode of Eric J. the Great podcast. Everybody appreciate the support. Almost at 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I want everybody to go check out the Rez Deshaun interview, Shawty Low Jr. Interview. And be on the lookout for the little Flip interview that drops the day after Christmas. I just interviewed him yesterday, so be on the lookout for more future content. I appreciate everybody that's been supporting the podcast.
Bye.